Alright YouTube, so we're back, of course, talk about some Final Fantasy VII Remake, and today I wanted to revisit the topic of data transfer and kind of look at it from a different perspective, a different light. I want to look at it from the perspective of why we may not have data transfer at all, or why it may not be what people think it's going to be. But before we even hop into it, before I could get around to making this video, somebody actually left a comment on one of my recent videos that pretty much sums up what the premise of this video is going to be, so I think we're going to start with that. So Vicarious left a comment a few days back that says, starting part 2 with 99 potions, 99 high potions, 99 Phoenix Downs, 1 million gil won't make any sense. They'll probably give you 1 materia per each category with level 1 on it. All types of elemental materia, healing materia, time, barrier, subversion, binding, with almost all the purple and blue materia wiped out because they're more of a stat and attribute boost. They might also give you all the characters' essential abilities and limit breaks from part 1 right from the beginning of part 2, and they'll add 3 or more as you play the game. So this is pretty much along the lines of the idea that I had as well, because I've been recently playing back through Remake again trying to get the Platinum Trophy, and I was like looting some enemies or opening up like a chest or destroying one of the Shinner boxes or whatever, and there's potions but I couldn't get them because my inventory was full. I already had 99, so I was like, I need to go sell these. And then it clicked about that because people have talked about, wanting everything to carry over. They want their max level characters, max level weapons, max level materia, all their extra materia, and all the items they got through the first game to carry over to the second part. And I'm just not sure if that's something that Square Enix is going to want to do with Remake Part 2. For one, if they can carry literally everything over, from levels to items to materia, weapons, abilities, all that shit, it's kind of going to break like the whatever grind there might be when it comes to Part 2. You could argue that there wasn't really much of a grind when it came to Remake Part 1, but still. Like, you're not going to have to find any materia to make your character stronger. You're already going to have max level HP up materias, max level fire, thunder, all that other stuff, elemental materias, magnify, all that other shit. All the stuff that's really good in Remake, you're going to already have. But putting like materia and equipment and stuff aside, the biggest issue I see here with cross progression, if we can carry literally everything over, is breaking the economy for Part 2, because we know that Part 2 should have Gold Saucer in it, right? Gold Saucer is pretty cool, obviously, because it had a bunch of different things you could do, a bunch of mini games you could play if you just kind of want to waste some time, but it also had exclusive items you could earn. Namely, of course, Cloud's Omnislash, his level 4 strongest limit break. It's something you could earn in the battle arena if you had enough GP. But also with the original game, there was a chance you could run across a vendor at the entrance that you could buy GP from. Now, the ratio was like 100 gil for 1 GP, and you had to buy 100 GP at a time, so you had to spend 10,000 gil at a time. But the point is, assuming this vendor would be in Part 2, and he probably will be, if we can walk in with maximum money, there's nothing stopping us from just buying everything that we need, all the exclusive items, all the new items. Now, nobody's making you buy GP from the shady guy in the corner of the Gold Saucer. You could still earn the GP yourself from playing the minigames at the location, if that's what you want to do. But the point is, if you can walk into Gold Saucer with a shit ton of money and buy GP and just get all the exclusive items, it kind of ruins the location, all the effort they put into the minigames, because not many people are going to want to sit there and grind the minigames for 50,000 GP just to buy something when they can just spend the gil to do it. And I'm just not sure if that's something Square Enix is going to want you to be able to do outside of earning the gil for yourself within Remake Part 2, but they could get rid of this problem entirely by just not letting you buy GP at all. Like, they could just get rid of the shady corner guy, and then you can only get the shit by playing the minigames. That would solve it. And Gold Saucer is not meant to be the main focus of the video, it's just one long-winded example. Just in general, you can break the economy. Like, if you carry over maximum gil, well, you're set for the entire game. There's never going to be any struggles at all. Earning gil's not going to be a part of the game. You're going to have all the money you ever need. Also, if you don't even have maximum gil when you transfer over to Part 2, you're going to have every fucking accessory and extra materia from the first game. Every extra item, like, your character's going to be max level, potentially, right? Level 50. You're not going to need potions or high potions, really, at that point anymore. Sell all those, sell all the other items. You're already going to have high-level armors and accessories, and you're only ever going to need those or better so you can sell every piece of armor that's below what you currently have equipped. And this is just one example. We're just talking about money, which is a small factor really when it comes to Final Fantasy in general. Like, I don't really ever struggle in those games, especially Remake. With Remake Part 1, there's never a time where I was struggling for money. Like, every time I walked into a new location, there's vendors selling, like, new items, materia, weapons, whatever. I never, like, needed to grind for the money. So this might not even be a factor really when it comes to Part 2. And you really, what's odd is, even though it's like a full gaming experience, 50 levels, like 30, 40 hours, whatever it is, like, you don't end with much money. Like, my first playthrough ended with like 50, 60, 70,000 gil, which is pretty low for a Final Fantasy game, right? Like, you usually end in like the hundreds of thousands, or million. But when you get into the conversation of, levels, abilities, materia, items, equipment, carrying over it, I can go either way on it, man. I understand why people want it to carry over, and it kind of makes sense because this is a continuing story, right? Remake Part 1, Remake Part 2 is a direct continuation. I understand. It would make sense that we start Part 2. I talked about this a long time ago, when we first started talking about data transfer. Like, why would we start Part 2 with nothing, right? Like, what happened? Did we leave Midgar and drop everything we fucking owned on the ground? No. that wouldn't have happened. They would have kept everything. And when we look at it from that perspective, there almost has to be some sort of cross progression, because like they're chasing Sephiroth, this guy who's immensely powerful. Why would they just get rid of all the strong equipment? What it really comes down to is what the remake project is. Is the sequel is going to be essentially expansion packs for the previous games? Like, does part 2 just add like essentially a handful of levels similar to expansion packs for other RPGs? It also comes down to what kind of a gaming experience they want for you. Do they want you to do that grind? Do they want you to start over fresh, with no money, very little materia, low-level weapons and armors? Or do they let you carry everything over? Or do they let you carry everything over, but you start over, like, kind of low level, right? Like, maybe you're level 5, and your materia starts... You get all the materia you had in the previous game, but it all starts back at level 1. Also, just kind of a quick side note when it comes to talking about this stuff, I don't think the argument of, well, I grinded a lot in part 1, I don't want to have to start over in part 2, really holds up, especially since it seems like these are standalone games, simply because you didn't fire up Ghost of Tsushima and were upset that you weren't already max level. You're not going to buy Cyberpunk 2077 later this year and be upset that you're not already level 50. You start over every new game fresh. I get that this is a direct sequel, it's a continuation of the story, and narratively it doesn't make sense that we just kind of lose all of our items and equipment, but I just can't imagine firing up Remake Part 2 and I have the exact same inventory. I don't know that that's going to happen. I don't foresee that. It definitely could. I'm not any more right than anybody else. This is just my thoughts and speculation. And I know when it comes to data transfer, we're just kind of talking in circles because everybody has their thoughts and opinions, and we don't know anything about it. So it's just kind of like we can go back and forth, but nobody really knows anything. It's just one of those things they're going to have to answer for us, man. It's at some point, once they start really rolling out information for Part 2, they have to answer that at some point, because that's like one of the burning questions. And maybe part of the reason why we haven't heard anything about it yet is because they themselves don't even know what they want to do in terms of that. They even said themselves they don't know how many games there's going to be. Anyways, that's pretty much the video, my dudes. I was just playing back the remake again to clean up some trophies, and I was looking at my long list of inventory and materia and stuff and equipment, and I was just like, I don't know that I'm going to see this in Part 2. That just seems kind of odd. I don't know, just my thoughts. So definitely want to know your guys' thoughts on this in terms of data transfer. Do you think we're going to start fresh? Do you think we're going to be able to carry every single thing over? Or do we carry everything over, but maybe we kind of reset our characters and levels? And also the progression on the material. Let me know in the comments below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. We'll stay updated with more Final Fantasy VII Remake content. Turn on my notifications. Follow me on Twitter at @DashingDavid. I'm on Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Logain, or leave it like Cobain.